A commercial oil tanker, redesigned as a floating airbase, hundreds of feet long and packed with secretive technology, is quietly reshaping global naval power. The official story calls it practical and cost-effective, but that leaves out the real stakes. These shadowy giants could make distant oceans feel like American territory overnight. How did an idea this bold change what war at sea means? Inside a San Diego shipyard in the early part of the decade that began in 2010, a program manager from the Navy and a NASSCO engineer met over a set of blueprints that at first glance looked like any other commercial oil tanker. The hull belonged to the Alaska class, a workhorse of the crude oil trade. But the Navy had a different vision, one shaped by years of watching access to overseas bases slip away and threats to fixed infrastructure grow. The question was not how to build a new warship from scratch. It was how to turn a proven commercial design into something the Navy could send anywhere, without breaking the budget or waiting a decade for delivery. The manager remembers the pitch. Keep the hull, keep the engines, but strip out the oil tanks and replace them with mission spaces, aviation decks, and modular support systems. The engineer recalls the skepticism. Could a civilian tanker really become a floating base for helicopters, boats, and special operations? The answer came from the mobile landing platform and the afloat forward staging base prototypes, which proved that commercial hulls could be adapted for military needs. By 2015, the Navy had rebranded these as Expeditionary Transfer Dock, known as ESD, and Expeditionary Sea Base, known as ESB, reflecting their growing role beyond simple logistics. The new designation was more than a name. It signaled a shift in thinking. Instead of relying on distant ports or fragile alliances, the Navy could bring its own base wherever it was needed. For the people behind the project, it was a lesson in pragmatism. Use what works, adapt what is proven, and build for the realities of modern conflict. Stretching 785 feet from bow to stern and spanning 164 feet across the beam, the Expeditionary Sea Base dwarfs most other ships in the fleet. At full load, it displaces close to 90,000 tons, nearly as much as a modern aircraft carrier. But where carriers are built for speed and power projection, this vessel is engineered for endurance. A diesel-electric propulsion plant drives the ship at a steady 15 knots, giving it a range of more than 9,000 nautical miles before refueling. That means it can cross oceans or remain on station for months without returning to port. Above the reinforced hull, the four-spot flight deck dominates the silhouette. This vast expanse is designed to handle some of the Navy's largest helicopters, including the MH-53E Sea Dragon, as well as the versatile MH-60 and the tilt-rotor MV-22 Osprey. Unlike smaller decks found on amphibious ships, this one supports simultaneous operations on all four spots, allowing for rapid launch and recovery cycles. The integrated hangar, carved out of what was once a tanker's cargo hold, provides sheltered maintenance and storage for aircraft and mission gear. The ship's size and design are relentlessly practical. Every inch is optimized for utility, whether supporting mine countermeasures, special operations, or logistics. The ESB does not need to outrun threats. It needs to stay put, serve as a platform, and keep operations running far from shore. The scale and capacity of the flight deck are the foundation for everything that comes next. Before dawn, the quiet of the ship is broken by the soft shuffle of boots and the low hum of machinery. Civilian mariners from Military Sealift Command head to the bridge, coffee in hand, ready to navigate the next watch. Navy personnel, in crisp uniforms, make their way to operations centers and planning rooms. The Expeditionary Sea Base, ESB, hybrid crew model brings together two worlds. About 44 civilian mariners keep the ship running, while roughly 100 Navy sailors handle mission operations and security. On top of that, the ship can host up to 250 additional personnel, special operations teams, mine warfare units, or staff, depending on the mission. Chain of command is a careful balance. The Navy commanding officer, a captain, holds ultimate authority, but the civilian master is responsible for the ship's navigation and engineering. On the bridge, a civilian mate on watch stands beside the Navy's anti-terrorism tactical watch officer, each focused on their domain. Watch rotations run around the clock, blending merchant marine traditions with military discipline. Berthing spaces are tight but functional, with men and women from both crews sharing the same corridors and mess decks. Daily life is shaped by routine, joint drills, maintenance checks, and meals that bring together people with different backgrounds and expectations. Friction sometimes flares, especially during high-pressure missions, but over time mutual respect and shared purpose foster a sense of camaraderie. For many, the Expeditionary Sea Base is less a ship and more a small floating community, one that must work together, far from home, to keep the mission on track. In August 2017, a crowd gathered at a pier in Bahrain as the Navy commissioned the USS Louis B. Puller. It was the first time a United States warship had ever been commissioned outside American waters. The ceremony, attended by senior United States and Bahraini officials, was more than a formality. With this single act, the Navy placed a fully operational sea base at the center of the Persian Gulf, a region where fixed bases are never guaranteed, and the threat of mines and asymmetric attacks is constant. The Puller replaced the aging USS Ponce, taking over as the Fifth Fleet's floating hub for mine countermeasures and special operations. Its arrival meant that United States commanders could stage helicopters, boats, and mission teams right where they were needed, without relying on vulnerable ports or negotiating new basing rights. The ship's modular decks and aviation facilities gave regional task force leaders a tool they had never had before, a persistent, mobile platform that could adapt to the tempo of crisis and conflict. For local commanders, the Puller became a symbol of American commitment in the Gulf. Its presence complicated adversary planning and reassured partners who watched shifting alliances with concern. The ship's ability to support mine-clearing teams and special forces missions, all from international waters, offered a new kind of flexibility that would soon be tested in other corners of the world. USS Herschel Woody Williams arrived in the Mediterranean as the first U.S. Navy warship permanently assigned to Africa Command. Forward deployed to Ceuta Bay, the ship operates across the Mediterranean, the Gulf of Guinea, and West Africa, regions where American bases are few and partner navies face daily challenges. Instead of relying on fixed installations, the Williams uses its endurance and modular decks to stay on station for months, rotating blue and gold military crews to keep operations continuous. During recent deployments, the Williams has become a familiar presence in the Gulf of Guinea, where piracy, illegal fishing, and drug smuggling threaten coastal nations. The ship's helicopters and small boats support maritime patrols, while its mission deck hosts joint teams for boarding and interdiction. In 2023, the Williams took part in Exercise Grand African Nemo, training alongside Senegalese maritime forces to track illicit vessels and practice coordinated responses. Earlier, the crew worked with Sierra Leone, Cape Verde, and Ghana during the African Maritime Law Enforcement Partnership, helping intercept unlicensed fishing boats and disrupt trafficking networks. This training blends operational practice with capacity building. Port visits in Lome and Tema have strengthened diplomatic ties, while the ship's ability to embark partner forces turns it into a floating classroom and command post. For African and European allies, the Williams isn't just a symbol of U.S. commitment, it is a practical tool for building skills, sharing intelligence, and responding to crises in real time. On the mission deck, a row of containerized control stations hums with activity. Operators monitor live feeds from small drones circling above the ship, while technicians prepare a scan eagle for launch. The Expeditionary Sea Base's modular design turns empty space into a nerve center for unmanned operations, supporting air, surface, and subsurface vehicles from a single floating platform. Launch and recovery gear can be swapped out as new systems come online, and the ship's communications suite links each drone to mission planners in real time. Even now, most drones are small and specialized, reconnaissance eyes in the sky, or robotic boats for mine countermeasures. But every new container, every antenna added pushes the sea base closer to a future where unmanned systems multiply its reach, letting a handful of crew project presence across hundreds of miles of open water. When the Navy reclassified the Expeditionary Sea Base from a support vessel to a commissioned warship, it was not just a change in name. The move gave commanders more freedom to use the ship for a wider set of missions, including direct combat roles under the law of armed conflict. This legal status means the ESB can operate closer to contested waters, with clear rules for self-defense and engagement. The decision also brought the ship under stricter Geneva Convention protections, clarifying the status of everyone aboard, even as debates continued over the risks faced by civilian mariners. Behind the scenes, Pentagon analysts weighed the cost savings of using commercial hulls against the need for survivability and flexibility. Shipyard advocates and regional commanders argued for more ESB ships, citing their value as floating bases that could be deployed wherever United States interests required, without the political baggage of foreign ports. In the end, the reclassification unlocked a new kind of naval real estate, mobile, adaptable, and ready for the demands of modern conflict. Today, U.S. sea bases quietly anchor influence in regions where permanent land bases are impossible. As global tensions shift and unmanned warfare evolves, these floating platforms redefine how power is projected, far from headlines, but closer than ever to tomorrow's front lines. What would you deploy from here?